if you have begun reading this text, it is not a coincidence. Please give me your attention. I am about to tell you a profound story that will change your life. By the end of this writing, you will feel much better and gain an understanding that will forever change how you see yourself. In the early hours of the morning, in a misty and dim forest, an old sage set out to dive into deep thoughts. The nature around him was silent. Bird songs had not yet started, and even the sound of the wind gently rustling through the leaves felt like a melody. The sage wanted to embark on an inner journey in this peaceful setting, to seek the meaning of life. After a long walk, he settled under the shade of a large tree. As he sat beneath the tree, he immersed himself in thoughts about life, fate, and freedom. Sunlight beams filtered through the trees, creating a world partly shadowed, partly lit. This moment brought serenity to the sage's soul and opened a window for him to better understand the cycles of nature and life. In this inner silence, he soon turned his attention to the sounds around him. After a while, the elderly man noticed a crow crying on a dry branch. The bird's mournful cry echoed through the forest's silence. The sage's heart stirred with compassion and kindness. He gently approached the crow and asked in a calm voice, "Why are you crying, my friend? What happened?" The crow bowed its head, wiping away tears from its eyes, and responded with a deep sigh. "I feel like the most pitiable creature. People throw stones at me, dogs chase me relentlessly, my feathers are falling out, and I feel worthless. One wish I had never existed. I wish I could vanish." The old sage saw the profound sorrow in the crow's eyes. He understood its helplessness and loneliness. With patience, he listened to the crow's story. Then he began to speak in a gentle tone. "Dear friend, you cannot control what others think or how they behave towards you. There are many things in this world beyond your control. However, how you react to these events is entirely within your power. If you focus too much on the words, thoughts, or actions of others, you will lose your inner peace." The crow tried to absorb the sage's words. It shed another tear as if pondering deeply what was being said. Finally, it murmured, "So, is the pain I feel coming not from the events themselves, but from my expectations of them?" The old sage nodded in affirmation. "Yes, often the source of our pain lies in the gap between what we wish would happen and what actually happens. When you cling to how others should be, or how the world should treat you, and reality doesn't meet those expectations, that's when true sorrow begins." The crow reflected on these words for a while. It delved into the depths of its pain. Perhaps it was suffering so much because of its own expectations rather than the external world. This realization sparked a small glimmer of hope in the crow's heart. The old sage continued, "Dear crow, I want to ask you a question. If you had the power to change your nature, what would you choose to be?" The crow faced this bold question with initial surprise. It thought for a moment, then answered confidently, "I would like to be a pure white swan. Swans are elegant, pure, and loved by everyone. I want to be as beautiful and happy as they are." The sage listened carefully to the crow's heartfelt response. He said softly, "All right, what would you do to make that wish come true?" and added, "Perhaps you should try talking to a swan. Understanding their world and experiences might help you discover your own path." The crow took the sage's suggestions seriously. Rather than trying to change its own nature, it sought to learn about the lives of swans and how they found happiness. Maybe, by doing so, it could chart a path for itself. The crow set off deeper into the forest to find Swan's wisdom and experiences. As the crow flew through the forest, it observed everything around it closely. The sunlight filtering through the trees lit up its feathers like gold. The melodic calls of the birds, the sound of water droplets trickling through leaves, and the whisper of the wind all contributed to a sense of unity with nature. This spiritual atmosphere filled the crow's heart with profound tranquility. After a while, the crow reached a calm lake where it saw a white swan gliding gracefully on the surface. Watching the swan move elegantly across the water nourished the crow's soul. It approached the swan carefully and began to speak. Hello, your elegance truly inspires me. Everyone seems to love you. You appear so beautiful and happy. How do you feel? The swan responded with a gentle sigh. Thank you, my friend. Despite appearances, I am not as happy as I seem. My beauty and purity attract people's admiration, but sometimes this admiration becomes a burden. My white feathers, unfortunately, limit me. Everyone says something about me. They try to protect me, but that also restricts my freedom. Hearing these words, the crow was taken aback. It began to realize how the swan's beauty might trap it. External allure draws attention yet can also constrain freedom. You speak of freedom, the crow asked, but isn't beauty supposed to bring happiness? What, then, does true freedom mean to you? The swan, gliding across the water, spoke in a calm tone. Beauty can be an illusion. True happiness goes beyond mere external appearance. It lies in inner peace and freedom. My white feathers attract people, but this attraction sometimes traps me. People admire my beauty, but that admiration keeps me from being truly free. My only limitation is that I cannot change my nature. True freedom lies in accepting who you are, making your own choices, and finding inner peace. A bird like me can be beautiful in appearance, but my true freedom lies beyond that beauty, in discovering my own self. These words resonated deeply with the crow. It began to understand how the swan's beauty limited its freedom, and how external attributes can sometimes become shackles. So then, the crow said sincerely, perhaps what I seek is not to change my nature, but to accept myself as I am, to find my inner freedom. The crow spent some more time talking with the swan, learning about how true freedom and happiness are not found in external beauty, but in inner serenity. The swan shared its experiences of how people's admiration both lifted and burdened its spirit, how its very charm could ensnare rather than liberate. The crow found itself relating to these stories. Perhaps it too was measuring its worth by external standards. During this meaningful time in the forest, the crow listened to the sounds of nature, the rustle of leaves, the gentle flow of water, and the whisper of the wind, turning inward to reflect on its own nature. The wise words of the old sage echoed in its mind. Do not rush to change your nature. True freedom comes from exploring and embracing your inner world. After a while, feeling enriched by the encounter with the swan, the crow thanked its new friend and flew back through the forest. It returned to the spot under the large tree where the old sage had been sitting, a place now filled with calm and newfound understanding. The crow approached the sage, whose kind eyes conveyed quiet wisdom. Dear sage, the crow began, its voice steadier now. I spoke with the swan today. Its words taught me so much. I realized that true freedom and happiness do not come from external beauty, but from inner peace and self-acceptance. I will no longer be bound by what others think of me. I will learn to accept myself as I am and seek my own freedom. The old sage nodded with a gentle smile. Exactly, he replied. The greatest poverty is not having little, but the constant desire for more. True happiness is not determined by others' expectations, but by your own inner peace. Embracing yourself is the gateway to freedom. These words left a deep impression on the crow. It looked around at the forest, at the sky above, and felt a shift within itself. No longer would it measure its worth through the eyes of others. It would value the freedom that comes from within. Accepting its nature brought a sense of renewal and strength. The sage continued, speaking softly as the crow listened intently. Remember, dear friend, that true freedom is not about changing what others see in you, but about listening to your own inner voice. Let go of what weighs you down. No matter your circumstances, your spirit remains free. Discovering that freedom lies within you, these teachings resonated deeply with the crow. It realized that the quest for happiness was always rooted within itself. The crow spread its wings wide, feeling the breeze beneath them as it prepared to take flight. It looked up at the vast, blue sky above, a symbol of endless freedom. At that moment, the crow felt an overwhelming sense of liberation. It was not just physically free to soar above the trees, but spiritually unbound by external judgments, or superficial desires. As it ascended into the sky, the crow reflected on its journey. It remembered the sage's words, the swan's wisdom, and the lessons learned from its own experiences. It understood that genuine happiness and freedom come from within, through self-acceptance and embracing one's true nature. This story reminds us that nothing that enters our lives is a mere coincidence. True freedom is not found by altering how others see us, but by listening to our inner voice, embracing our true selves, and finding inner peace. Every experience, every encounter serves as a teacher that shapes, grows, and matures us. Remember, freedom lies not only in changing external circumstances, but in breaking the chains within our own hearts. Accept yourself as you are, embrace your inner strength, and boldly face life with true freedom. Thank you.